The new Apex Legends limited time event game mode Control is perhaps one of the most important mix-ups that Apex Legends will ever have. But why? First, if you haven't heard, Apex Legends has released a new limited time event mode called Control. This game mode is similar to Domination and other games, where teams of 9 players, 3 squads on each side, attempt to capture points on the map. Aside from using the general gameplay of Apex Legends, with a long time to kill and fast movement, the Control game mode differs in a few interesting ways. First, players can only spawn on a point if it is connected to their side. If an enemy point is in the way, they can't spawn there. For example, if one team holds point B, but not point A, they wouldn't be able to spawn at point B until point A is captured again. Second, spawns happen in waves. This means that all dead players respawn at a certain interval, and not at some amount of time since their death. If the entire team somehow ends up dead, they will all respawn, so long as they choose a spawn point at the same time when the spawn wave comes. Additionally, there is sometimes a bonus for holding or capturing a point. This seems to serve as the comeback mechanic, allowing teams the opportunity to make a point comeback if they start the match off slow. Let's examine the Control game mode and see how it fits, or doesn't fit, the gameplay of Apex Legends. As is pretty obvious if you've played or even just watched Apex before, there's a pretty long time to kill. Opponents aren't defeated after just 1 or 2 shots unless it's a sniper rifle, which means combat can be protracted and much more tactical than in other games like Call of Duty, where the first to aim and shoot will often win a gunfight. How does this affect the Control mode? Because there are so few points on each map, players can make a large impact simply by putting pressure on any points. This pressure is doubled by the fact that if one team holds the middle point but loses their home point, the point closest to their spawn side, then they can no longer spawn at B. This immediately weakens their ability to hold point B by quite a large amount, and can be disastrous for a team. This becomes an extremely important part of the game mode when you realize that, since the time to kill is so long, the players can often make very large impacts on other parts of the map simply by attacking the enemy home point. This also helps to explain why spawn placement is so limited in Control, which is one of the first things a player may notice about the game mode. Those familiar with a game like Battlefield, where players can spawn on squad mates, might find it a little odd they can't immediately spawn on teammates, especially if they were on the far side of the map and just want to get back into the action. The ability to do this would fundamentally break the game mode though, because Control is balanced around forcing opponents to make their way back to whichever point they were fighting for, rather than simply spawning in close by. The reason this is so important is because of the time to kill. The time it takes to remove an enemy from the fight is significantly faster if multiple players attack the same opponent. This can mean that a small advantage in numbers quickly snowballs, and can even become oppressive if there's no way to limit how quickly players can rejoin a fight in an important area. Since Control was revealed, it's been highly praised by many. Most people even expect it to become a permanent game mode, despite the limited time name that it currently sports. If it does, it could mean there's room for Apex to expand in an entirely different direction, even becoming a sort of Titanfall 3. But if that's what Respawn is working toward, is it likely to succeed? The gameplay in Control is solid, but one of its downfalls is that it, ultimately, has been tacked onto Apex rather than built as a dedicated mode. Current maps are acceptable, but don't take advantage of the novel gameplay elements very well. For example, one of the best aspects of the mode is the ability to respawn and have more chances to get into the action and join the fun part of the game. However, as they are, the maps feel too far apart and in some respects too open. There are numerous areas on each map which rarely get used, and adding restricted areas to these maps could be more beneficial than just leaving them open. This forces players to focus on the objectives rather than sitting around sniping. That isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the point of this analysis is to determine what is maximizing fun, and having entire teams sitting outside B points sniping to keep away opponents can be as boring for the winning team as it is oppressive for the losing team. Another way the maps might be more refined is with more points, and not only more points, but points that are worth different amounts. The Control game mode already has bonuses for capturing certain points at different times, or for holding that point for a long enough time. Imagine a map in which each side has 1 or 2 points which are heavily favored for their side, but which are not worth nearly as much as an open central point. Holding this central point could be extremely difficult, but allow for gaining lots of points quickly. Another idea could be that networks of points that are connected to each other, are worth more each time they add score for the team. This mechanic could even go the other way, where teams get a bonus for capturing points behind enemy lines. Ultimately, these changes would provide a much larger opportunity for strategy in the Control game mode, a sorely missed aspect of the current iteration of the mode. where the strategy primarily comes down to a question of attacking or defending the midpoint, or attempting to undercut the enemy spawns by taking their home point. This is perfectly acceptable if the only purpose of the mode is a feeder into the Battle Royale gameplay that Apex is known for. But if Control is instead an attempt to see if there is a market for a different audience, perhaps one that enjoys Call of Duty or Battlefield, for example, where action is relatively constant, and not with large gaps like the typical Battle Royale, then this is a large issue that has to be solved. In my initial concept for this video, I wanted to analyze if the Control game mode could ever become a Fortnite-esque turn in the history of the game. Fortnite was not always known for its Battle Royale mode, but instead had an initial survival gameplay mode. However, the Battle Royale became the dominant mode when Battle Royales first became popular, and Fortnite released as a free-to-play. Could Apex do the same with Control, where they try to cater to an entirely separate audience, one which craves the more constant action of the Control game mode? Especially with the failure of Battlefield 2042, dedicating some quality effort into the Control game mode could easily be a way to build a strong audience, but that's only possible if the gameplay becomes a bit more varied, with room for strategy and different mechanics to provide opportunity for emergent gameplay. One of the biggest issues with the mode so far, in my experience, seems to be that comebacks almost never happen. A game might be close, but often the first team to gain an advantage will keep that advantage for the majority of the game, until they ultimately win it. This is mostly caused as a result of the design decisions surrounding map design. One of the primary balancing mechanics implemented in the Control game mode is the bonus points for capturing a specific point. However, the randomness of this objective can mean that it will spawn on the losing team's point, making it easy for the enemy team to quickly capture it, gain the points, then give it up immediately after. This means even the comeback mechanic can become a way for the winning team to snowball their lead even further. Another issue with Control is that the mode is almost exactly a tug-of-war rather than a strategic mode. The correct choice is almost always for the majority of the team to head straight for B, while a small number of players attacks the enemy home point. This leads to little room to make interesting decisions regarding what to do to actually win the game, especially if your team is at a disadvantage because the other team simply won the matchmaking lottery. There are some changes that might make this issue quite a bit less problematic. First, split the map into 3 parts and allow players to spawn on their teammates if they are within their team's area. This could potentially change depending on which points are owned, or be a predefined area that doesn't change. Second, smaller, dedicated spawning points could be captured by players, and the ability to spawn on the major points could be removed. This can also tie into other changes which allow certain points to have different weapons, rather than the current system of randomly dropping pods of weapons at random places on the map, some of which are out of the way and serve only to minimize the opportunity for a player to actually play the game mode. While Control currently forces players to accept a specific loadout of weapons, some of which a player may not even like, using this weapons cache system could give incentive to not only capture a point and help the team, but to get a weapon they actually enjoy using. Holding a certain point could, even, potentially, allow players to directly spawn with weapons from that cache. The new Apex game mode is a lot of fun. I enjoy it significantly more than the BR mode, but there are some glaring issues that could prevent it from becoming great. I really hope this mode becomes a permanent aspect of the game, and I think there are quite a lot of ways in which the mode could be made even better. Between map design and simple point control mechanics, I've tried to list a few ways I think those issues could be solved, or at least made less problematic. If they are fixed, it really could be the beginning of a whole new Apex. Have you played the Control game mode? What did you think of it? Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Let us know what you think of the game mode or any changes you'd make to it in the comments. I hope you have a great day.